My mother and sister took my daughter to a high-end restaurant and told me it was a special treat. They left her with the bill, then blocked her number. It'll toughen her up, my sister said. She has to learn the world isn't free, my mother sneered. 3 days later, a photo of her crying at the Hostess stand went viral on local news. I'm Marlene, 47, divorced, mom to one daughter, Nora. She's my world, the kind of kid who offers her seat on the bus, sends thank you cards, and apologizes if she thinks she's taking up too much space in a room. If kindness could pay bills, she'd be rich. We live in Albany, not the most glamorous city in New York, but it's home. Our apartment is small but comfortable, tucked in a quiet complex near Buckingham Lake. I work at a medical billing office, not exactly fulfilling, but it keeps the lights on. Nora's a sophomore at the university at Albany, studying English Lit. She also works part-time at a used bookstore off Western Avenue. She doesn't complain. Ever. Not when her class schedule gets overwhelming. Not when she has to work weekends. Not even when her shoes started to come apart and she had to staple the soles back on before payday. So when my mother, Margaret, and my younger sister, Bianca, suddenly wanted to take her out for a special treat, I was suspicious. They've never been especially close to her. They weren't cruel, not overtly, but they were distant. Cold. And the few times they did show interest, it came with strings. Don't you think it's strange? I'd asked Bianca over the phone earlier that week. She's our niece and granddaughter, she said breezily. We just want to do something nice. Take her to a place she'll remember. The place in question was the Iron Finch, a swanky restaurant downtown that I've only stepped foot in once, and that was for an office Christmas party. It's the kind of place where the waitstaff wears suits and water gets poured from bottles you can't pronounce. A single cocktail runs about $20. Not somewhere you go for a casual dinner. Still, I wanted to believe them. Nora was ecstatic. She asked me 5 times if her navy dress looked okay. She even straightened her naturally curly hair, which she rarely did. I watched her leave with hope in her eyes. She returned home shattered. She had called me at 9:43 p.m., her voice low and trembling. They left, she whispered. They just got up and said they were going to the bathroom, and they never came back. At first, I thought maybe they were pulling some kind of prank. Maybe they were waiting outside. Maybe they'd come back laughing and tell her they wanted to see how she'd react. But then she said something that made my stomach drop. They're not answering. I think they blocked me. Blocked. As in, no more texts. No calls. Nothing. Silence. I could hear the panic behind her words, and worse, the shame. I didn't even order anything expensive, Mom, she said. They ordered the wine and appetizers. I just had the risotto. I didn't know what to do. I told her to stay put and rushed out the door. It took me 17 minutes to get there, and I broke at least 3 traffic laws. When I walked in, she was still standing by the Hostess stand, trying to explain. Her cheeks were wet. Her hands shook as she clutched her purse. She looked like a lost child. People were staring. The kind of stare that's not concerned, just curious enough to whisper about it later. A couple in the booth near the front had their phones out. One of them had taken a photo. I didn't realize it at the time, but that photo would change everything. I paid the bill. $346.82. No one at the restaurant blamed her. They'd seen worse, they said. But they also couldn't let her leave without payment. One of the waiters quietly told me he suspected what was going on when the 2 older women left together and never came back. She didn't even eat dessert, he said with a sympathetic look. Just sat there politely. When we got home, Nora curled up on the couch and didn't say a word for a long time. Just stared at the blank TV screen. I offered her some tea. She didn't want any. I tried to text Bianca. Blocked. Same with my mother. It was intentional. Premeditated. Cold. By morning, I'd worked myself into a silent rage. How could they? What kind of people trick a young woman, a family member, into dining at a high-end restaurant, eat and drink on her name, then leave her humiliated and financially stranded? 3 days later, the photo hit the local news. The photo. That damn photo. It was posted on a local Albany community Facebook group first, captioned by someone who had been dining nearby. They hadn't spoken to Nora, hadn't asked her name, just posted it with a vague line like this poor girl was left with a massive bill after her dinner companions disappeared. Broke my heart. By the next day, it had spread. Someone reposted it to the Albany subreddit. A few Twitter accounts picked it up. Then it made its way to the Channel 6 news site, and suddenly Nora's tear-streaked face was the symbol of some moral commentary on decency and generational cruelty. They'd blurred her face, but not the emotion. It was all there, the panic, the humiliation, the sheer disbelief that family would do this. People speculated, made up their own backstories. A few got close to the truth. I didn't even know it had gone viral until a coworker of mine, Patty, flagged me down at work. "You didn't tell me it was your daughter," she said, lowering her voice. "My daughter what?" Patty blinked. "The restaurant thing. It's all over social media." "You haven't seen it?" I hadn't. I rarely check Facebook unless I'm reminded of someone's birthday. But when she pulled it up and I saw my daughter, my sweet, gentle Nora, caught in the middle of what should have been an ordinary night out, I felt my stomach turn. The timestamp on the post was from the night I picked her up. That photo was taken while I was still racing through red lights, trying to get to her. Nora hadn't mentioned the photo. I'm not sure she even realized someone had taken it. When I got home, I found her curled on the couch again, headphones on, legs pulled to her chest. She wasn't crying, not visibly, but there was a stillness to her, like she'd frozen from the inside out. I sat beside her and gently removed her earbuds. "You're all over the internet," I said softly. She turned her face toward me, confused. I showed her. Her eyes moved across the screen slowly, taking it all in. The photo. The comments. The news link. "Oh," she said. "That was all. Just oh." Then after a long pause, I didn't even notice anyone taking it. I waited, watching her closely. "I guess it makes sense," she whispered. It felt like something people would want to watch happen. Like a train wreck. "No," I said immediately. "No, baby, that's not what this is." But it didn't matter. That seed had already been planted. The thing about trauma is, it doesn't need logic to grow. A couple of days later, the story took on a life of its own. The manager of the Iron Finch made a statement. Said that in 15 years, he'd never seen such calculated cruelty. Confirmed Nora had been left alone with a full bill, and that the restaurant had done their best to comfort her. Then local news picked it up again, this time with a headline like, "Abandoned over dinner, young woman left with $346 bill by her own family in high-end Albany restaurant." Still no names. No identifying details. But people started piecing it together. An anonymous Reddit user claimed they recognized Nora from college. "She's a cashier at Feather and Quill," someone else wrote. "Super sweet girl. Always smiles." Another said they thought they recognized one of the older women. "Drives a silver Benz. Real estate agent. Bit of a diva." It wasn't long before someone dug up Bianca's Instagram. She had posted a photo from that night, before they left Nora. A wine glass. The words, "Treating ourselves like royalty tonight #deserve it #Friday vibes." It was timestamped just minutes before the photo of Nora went viral. The comments started flooding in. "This you? Hope your treat was worth the national embarrassment. Cruel. Just cruel." Bianca deleted the post. Then her entire account. Margaret, old as she was, had never been one for social media. But that didn't stop her from finding out. She called me 2 days later, voice sharper than a tack. This is getting out of hand, she barked. People are calling us monsters. I didn't say anything. I don't appreciate the insinuations. I still didn't respond. After a moment of silence, she said, it was a lesson. She's 20. She needs to grow a spine. That did it. I laughed. Not the kind of laugh you give during a funny sitcom, but the cold, sharp kind that bubbles up when your body runs out of other ways to process rage. She needed a spine? I said slowly. From you? The woman who used to lock me out of the house for crying when I was sick. Don't be dramatic. I could feel my hands shaking, and I gripped the phone tighter just to ground myself. You don't get to decide what builds character, Ma. What you did was calculated, public humiliation of a young woman who's never done anything to you. You're blowing this out of proportion, she said. And then, I hung up. I didn't give her a chance to justify it again. There was nothing left to say. Bianca, ever the victim, posted a cryptic story to her backup Instagram. People love to twist the narrative. No regrets for teaching tough lessons. The world isn't soft. A few of her former clients saw it and didn't take kindly to her tone. One even left a scathing review on her real estate page, unprofessional and heartless. Hope you treat your clients better than your own family. Her rating dropped a full star in 3 days. Meanwhile, Nora tried to pretend like nothing had changed, but I could see the shift. She'd always been polite, accommodating, quiet, but there was a new edge to her silence now. A wariness I hadn't seen before. She deleted all her social media. Turned down a few requests from local outlets who wanted to interview her for awareness. She didn't want to be the face of a trending topic. She just wanted to be left alone. But she couldn't hide at the bookstore forever. People began recognizing her. A woman dropped off a card with a $50 gift card inside. Someone else paid for her coffee and left a note, "You didn't deserve that. You deserve better." These gestures helped. They really did. But they also reminded us that this wasn't just a bad night anymore. It was a story now, one that had left a permanent scar. The real shift came about 2 weeks after the story hit its peak. Things had calmed down online, at least somewhat. People had moved on to the next viral outrage. But inside our little apartment, the air felt different. Nora didn't talk about that night unless she absolutely had to. She still worked her shifts, still did her assignments, still showed up for life. But something was missing. The spark, maybe. That innate softness she always had, the one I had worried the world might someday stamp out, now dimmed by people she should have been able to trust the most. One night, after we'd finished washing the dishes, she asked me, "Did you ever feel like they hated you?" I didn't have to ask who they were. All the time, I said. But I told myself they didn't. I told myself I just wasn't enough. She nodded, drying the same plate over and over, not looking at me. I kept wondering what I did wrong. Did I say something? Did I make them mad? No, I said gently. You were just good. And they don't know what to do with good. That conversation broke something open in her. For the next few days, she started journaling again. She dug up old poetry she hadn't touched since high school. I saw her sitting by the window some evenings, pen in hand, chewing on the cap like she used to when she was younger. There was healing happening, but it wasn't linear. It was jagged, uneven, and quiet. Then, something surprising happened. Bianca emailed her. Not me, Nora. It was a brief, stiff paragraph that read like a legal disclaimer, "We never meant to cause you harm. The intention was to show you how the real world operates. We're sorry you were embarrassed, but life is full of hard lessons. Hope you're doing well. B." That was it. No ownership. No acknowledgement of abandonment or betrayal. Just a cool, backhanded apology wrapped in corporate PR speak. Nora showed it to me without saying anything. I could see her hands tremble slightly, but her face was calm. "She's not sorry," she said. "She's afraid." What do you want to do? I want to respond. But I don't want to make it a fight. You don't have to respond at all. But she did. Carefully. Thoughtfully. She took her time with it, and when she was ready, she asked me to read it before she hit send. Her message was short, but it cut deeper than anything I could have said. I always thought you didn't like me. This confirmed it. I'm not mad anymore. Just sad that I spent so many years trying to make you proud. I hope you treat the people in your life better than you treated me. I won't be replying again. Bianca didn't answer. Margaret never reached out either. But she wasn't idle. Apparently, she'd started calling other family members, weaving a new version of events. That Nora had insisted on paying. That she had become rude at dinner. That she was being spoiled and soft, and Margaret was simply trying to instill a sense of financial reality. It didn't stick. My cousin Melanie called me a few days later. I don't know what's gotten into Aunt Margaret, but she sounds off. Defensive. Kind of paranoid. She's embarrassed, I told her. She should be. I saw the news story. Everyone did. It made me sick. I hadn't even realized how many relatives were quietly following the whole thing, piecing it together. Some called to check in. Others emailed Nora directly. A couple sent flowers. One uncle offered to pay her tuition for the semester, no strings attached. She declined, politely, but it left an impact. Strangers had shown her more decency in a week than her own blood had in years. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after the dinner incident, we ran into Margaret by accident. It was at the Price Chopper on Central Avenue. I was pushing the cart, Nora was walking beside me, comparing prices on olive oil. And there, in the baking aisle, stood my mother, squinting at a box of cake mix. I didn't recognize her at first. Her posture seemed smaller, her hair flatter than usual. She looked older. But the second she turned, her eyes met mine, and she stiffened. Nora, she said. Nora froze. Her whole body tensed. She looked at me, waiting. I didn't say a word. Margaret stepped closer. Can we talk? She asked. Nora shook her head slowly. No, Grandma. We can't. I didn't mean for it to go that way, you never do, Nora said, voice steady, but quiet. But it always does. She turned and walked away, leaving me and Margaret standing there. I didn't follow her right away. I stayed just long enough to see the flicker of something behind my mother's expression, maybe guilt, maybe just annoyance. But I didn't give her a chance to speak again. I turned, too, and caught up to my daughter. We didn't talk about it in the car. We didn't have to. A few days later, Bianca tried again. This time, through a text. It's gone too far. You've made us look like monsters. That was the message. No greeting. No accountability. Just blame. Nora stared at her phone, then set it down. I think she really believes that, she said. She does. Because to admit what she did would mean she has to accept she's the villain in her own story. I never wanted any of this, she whispered. I just wanted them to love me. I sat down next to her and wrapped my arm around her shoulder. I know. I did too. For a long time. The next big moment came out of the blue, a message from a journalism professor at Nora's university. They'd seen the coverage, and one of their graduate students was writing a thesis on public shaming, family estrangement, and viral media. They wanted to interview her. Not exploit her, they were very clear about that, just hear her perspective, if she was willing. Nora hesitated. What if it just keeps the whole thing alive? I shrugged. Maybe. But maybe it helps someone else going through the same thing. She thought about it for a long time. Then finally said, okay. But on my terms. Nora agreed to the interview. She met the grad student, a soft-spoken woman named Priya, at a quiet coffee shop near campus. I offered to go with her, but she wanted to do it alone. Said it was something she needed to finish on her own terms. When she came home later that afternoon, she had a small, tired smile on her face. She curled up on the couch with Junebug in her lap and told me everything. She didn't ask weird questions or try to dig into trauma, Nora said. She just asked what it felt like. And why I think people cared. What did you say? I asked. That maybe people are tired of cruelty being disguised as tough love. That maybe people are sick of being humiliated by the ones who are supposed to protect them. And maybe they saw themselves in it. I nodded. Sounds like you said exactly what needed to be said. The interview turned into a feature article for the university's student magazine. It wasn't sensationalized or over the top. It was titled, "Left with the Bill, When Family Teaches the Wrong Lessons." It went viral again, but this time, not with outrage. This time, people shared it with notes of solidarity. This happened to my brother. I was abandoned like this at 17 by my dad. Thank you for telling this story. This makes me want to raise my kids differently. It spread across Twitter, then Facebook. Eventually, an online magazine picked it up and syndicated it. And then came the invitation. A producer from a well-known daytime talk show emailed Nora directly, asking if she'd be willing to come on and share her experience for a segment they were doing on boundaries, betrayal, and breaking the cycle. They even offered to fly both of us out to Chicago for the taping. We talked about it for hours. I don't want to make it into a circus, Nora said. You wouldn't be. You'd be showing people how to take back their dignity. She was quiet for a long time, then finally said, "Okay. I'll do it. But I want to be clear. This isn't about revenge. It's about truth." The show aired live. They blurred Bianca and Margaret's names, even though anyone with a bit of internet savvy could figure it out. Nora was poised. Honest. Unapologetic. She didn't cry. She didn't beg for sympathy. She told her story with clarity and strength, and when the host asked her what she'd say to the family members who did this to her, she didn't flinch. I hope you find the help you need. But you won't find it by hurting other people. And I won't let your damage become mine. The audience applauded. Some people cried. Backstage, the producer hugged her and said it was one of the most powerful segments they'd ever aired. Back home, things snowballed. Bianca's brokerage firm quietly dropped her. Officially, it was due to a misalignment in company values, but we all knew the real reason. Several clients had contacted the firm after the story aired. Her Instagram was deleted entirely this time. Margaret, from what I heard through the family grapevine, retreated from public life. She stopped going to her bridge group. Stopped showing up at the senior center. She'd become a pariah in her own small circle. But we didn't celebrate. We didn't gloat. Because the real revenge wasn't watching them fall. It was watching Nora rise. A few weeks later, she got an email from the university. She had been nominated by a professor for a Campus Resilience Award. They were holding a small ceremony and wanted her to speak. She wore that same navy dress from the night of the restaurant. Only this time, she walked in with her head held high. Her speech was short but powerful. I used to think being kind meant being small. Being quiet. Being easy to love. But kindness isn't weakness. And real strength isn't about who you can humiliate. It's about who you can uplift. I'm not angry anymore. I'm free. I stood in the back, clapping until my hands hurt. After the ceremony, a few local news reporters approached her. She declined interviews with a smile and said she was done telling her story, because the chapter had closed. That night, we celebrated at a cozy Italian restaurant on Madison Avenue, just the two of us. Nothing fancy. Just good pasta, good conversation, and quiet joy. No one ran out on the bill. No one cried at the hostess stand. No one took photos. It was just peace. A month later, Nora received a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. It was from Margaret. It wasn't an apology. It was a justification, wrapped in old age and pride. Still insisting she meant well. Still claiming it was a lesson. Still unable to say the words I was wrong. Nora folded the letter without reading it to the end and placed it back in the envelope. I don't need this, she said, setting it on the windowsill. Letting go doesn't mean forgiving. It just means I'm done carrying it. And just like that, we were.